Cool. Make sure we can hear me. It seems like it's working. Cool. Awesome, Tyler. I'm so excited to talk to you. I know that you have this amazing podcast called Middle Class Money, which talks about pretty much how to create wealth for the middle class. I know you go into budgeting, real estate, all sorts of stuff. But what I love most about this is you actually have a 9-to-5.
Yeah.
You're not like a lot of the people that I talk to who are trying to make it online. You have your 9-to-5, and then you are also doing the whole online side hustle business. So can you tell us a little bit more about your backstory, Tyler, and kind of how everything came about?
Yeah. So I'm 30 years old. I work in business to business sales. I've been in sales, really since I graduated. I had a brief stint at Target as a manager, and I quit after 3 months. I went to school for 4 years to realize in 3 months that, that just wasn't for me. And then ever since then, I've kind of always been dabbling in starting businesses. I've done e-commerce with Amazon. That did well. I was able to pay off like $50,000 in student debt when we were newly married. I've done, multifamily real estate that we're invested in, and then also had like a local auto detail business that did really well that I was able to sell a couple years ago. And now I do business to business sales for I sell high-end analytic cameras to commercial businesses. Think of like what you'd see in a stadium or a sporting arena, or when you go to a concert, things like that. And then I also have Middle Class Money on the side, where I teach people how to manage their money well. And then hopefully eventually, if you do that, it sets you up to, to be able to chase your dreams in the long run. So.
And what are your dreams right now? I know you have your not your 9-to-5, but I know we kind of briefed on it earlier, but tell us a little bit what you're trying to accomplish. And I know that your podcast has like 248 5-star reviews. So if you definitely haven't checked out his podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe right now. But go ahead and tell us like kind of what your goals are.
Yeah, so I'll twist the screen. You probably can't see it, but there's all my goals just for this year. I have a huge 4x8 whiteboard in my office that I always love to write stuff down. It holds me accountable. It keeps me motivated. But yeah, I would say the goal is to eventually one day be able to help people understand the missteps that I took in some of my business failures. I've had more failures than I've had successes. That, and then also just encouraging people to manage their money well in order to do that. So what I mean by that is, for instance, if we would not have structured our lifestyle and budget the way we did, my wife never would have had the chance to go into real estate. She made negative $5,000 her first year in real estate, but I wouldn't let her quit because I knew she loved it. Had we not been disciplined with our money, she never would have got to chase her dream. And now 7 years, she's so successful at 28 years old that, more success than most real estate agents will have in a lifetime. And it all started with just simply manage your money well. So if I can give people the steps to do that and allow them to chase their dreams, then that's really my dream.
That's awesome. I know you said you've had a lot of failures, but you've talked about how you've had some successes in your detailing business, e-commerce. I think for a lot of people, probably everyone, we've all had more failures than successes, because that's just the game of life. Like, you're gonna pick yourself up from those failures, and once you get that success, you it's like that one thing you celebrate. And I think a lot of people too much dwell on not the consequences, but the failures, the mishaps, or the learning opportunities, instead of actually embracing their successes. It's crazy. I want to get on a topic real quick about what you've been talking about, budgeting. I think that so many people focus on making money, and they don't focus on like the defensive part of their money strategy. What is some of the, I know of the 50-20-30 rule, or the 50-30-20, just depends on how you flip it. What are some kind of tactics that you use, rules of thumb, that you find that are best for helping people budget?
Yeah, so we're a little bit different. Probably I kind of made up my own strategy per se.
That's fine.
But essentially is the way I like to think of it is flipping the budget upside down on its head. So if everyone can imagine, if you've ever made a budget, regardless of whether you stuck to it or not, just think about when you made a budget. The first thing you did was wrote down your rent or mortgage, right? Because that's your
Right.
most expensive. And then you probably wrote down your car payment.
Right.
But inherently, those things are actually the least important. And those are actually one of the few things that you control. So is what I like to teach is putting those, learning how to prioritize a budget. And actually learning how much. Let's look at, even if you're 20, early 30s, let's look at how much you need to retire, what you want to retire at, and stop thinking it as of an age and think of it more of as a number. So if I can get you to think of, hey, I need 1.5 million or 2 million to retire, well, maybe we can reach that number by 45. And so we put that number towards that investment at the very top of our priority in our budget, and then make sure all our other categories fit, if that makes sense.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the concept of paying yourself first versus, a lot of people where they pay for all their expenses first. And this is a very great strategy, by the way, Tyler, as the most successful people in business and just net worth always pay themselves first. Because money's worth more now than it is in the future, just with inflation. So it's super important to keep reinvesting your money. Do you have is that just keep it in the savings account? Should I just keep 1.5 million in my bank and hope that I'm going to be retired early, or what is that strategy like for you?
That's a great question. I try and keep it very simple, and what I've realized from chatting with people is they get so hung up on where it should be, or like what stock, right, or large cap, and all these different things that, and to be honest, they have no business really going into the details of. So I try and keep it simple and just say, hey, listen, if you can take your employer's match, right? Let's say it's 3% and you make about 50 grand a year with an average US salary, give or take some money. If you take that match, if you max out your Roth IRA, which is $6,000 a year, and if you're eligible for an HSA, which I think is like $3,750, I think for a single, or $7,000 for family.
And that's a health savings account for those that don't know.
Yeah, and if you don't have that, then you can skip that and go straight to like a low index fund or real estate, like in your case.
Yeah.
But if you just max out those 3 accounts and never touch real estate or never touch the open, like a joint account market, I think if you start in your early 20s, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 50. I mean, and that's just by maxing out your tax advantage accounts. But, part of my mission, to go back to your earlier question, is no one taught me that. And so I really did have about 40 to 50 grand sitting in a savings account when I was 27 years old, because I had this passion to make money and save.
Right.
But no one ever, and it's kind of my fault too, no one ever told me, hey, maybe you should max out a Roth IRA. I had no clue what that was. I didn't have a financial advisor. I thought you had to be rich to have a financial advisor.
Right.
So I'm just trying to educate people of like, hey, just by doing little disciplined steps, you can be very, very wealthy, and give yourself a lot of power and negotiation power too.
Yeah, and I think it's a smart. I don't know if you said this or not, but you had 50,000 in your bank, and then you obviously reinvested the money to have your money working for you. Yeah. With the cost of inflation and how banks work, just keeping the money in your bank, like a savings account, or even under your mattress, like, you're going to be losing money every single day just because of inflation. And the way the banks make money, and this is amazing, and I don't know if people know this, but they make money on like 5 or 6 different ways. They make money by loaning me money so that I can invest it into real estate. They give credit cards and all that stuff. They invest into the stock market. They charge you fees. So they use all this money or arbitrage on interest rates. And if they're able to give you 0.01% while charging me 3%, they're making the difference on that interest, which is amazing. At some point, I want to be the bank, because you can charge fees, you can charge interest, you can invest other people's money to make more money. It's amazing. But I think that, go ahead.
No, I say, yeah, one of the things that we can do is I can send you over some links that we can put. I know we'll work on an article kind of content piece put together of where they should put, like, kind of that funnel per se, right? The emergency fund is first. Where should we
Right.
put that? Because we don't want that sitting in your local bank, because it's going to get 0.002%
Right.
and not do any work. So put it in an account that's at least going to get you maybe 1.5 to 2% interest, and then we'll get more aggressive from there. So we can work on that.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of different ways, right? You can do a ladder with a CD and have a CD ladder. There's so many different ways. It obviously depends on your risk tolerance and depends on how liquid you need to be. I need to have a substantial amount of money sitting in my bank account because obviously with real estate, I need reserves, and any bank is going to want those reserves in my bank. There's nothing I can do, but unfortunately it just sits in there. So I think that is smart that you are taking steps to invest in money. I actually don't invest. I think I have like an Acorn stock or account, and that's all the money I invest into the stock market. For me, my wife does that. She has her matching 401ks. She has all that because I don't get the employee contributions like you guys do. So I mean, I think it's so funny that so many entrepreneurs or infopreneurs or fake entrepreneurs shit on the 9 to 5 all the time, but they don't get matching contributions, they don't get medical benefits, they don't get maternity leave, they don't get dental and vision, they don't get all these great benefits that the 9 to 5 have. But I think that what I love about you and your podcast and what you teach is that people kind of have a cap of how much they can make with a 9 to 5, and people like who are willing to put in the extra effort and be someone who does not want to work all their life will take a side hustle or reinvest into real estate like your wife does. So I think that's really cool. What side hustles do you recommend for people that do have a 9 to 5 that aren't going to be drained after the work?
Yeah.
And we'll have a great sleep schedule and all that.
Oh man, so that's tough. So it obviously depends on your stage of life. So just to paint a picture right now I have a side hustle, right, with the podcast.
Right.
And it's more about building value, and we'll worry about the money later because I do have a 9 to 5. So I don't really have to worry about that. But, just to paint a picture for those listening, I have 2 little kids, I have a wife. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I have about 3 hours that I get to work on podcast stuff. Right. And then I go to work, right. And I have to sell cameras and access control and the whole 9 yards. And then from there, I get to pick up my kids and, got to make sure they have a dad and hang out with them, play with them in the yard. And then obviously got to sometime after that, put the kids to bed, have to spend time with the wife. So for me,
spend time with the wife.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I have those 3 hours in the morning. If I was not able to get up with 2 kids and a full-time job, I wouldn't have time. That looked a lot different when I was 23 years old. I had so much time. My wife was like, yeah, go do something. You're bugging me. Like, so to answer your question, it depends, man, because there's so many answers, and I know there's so many people that are successful with different things. I look at 3 platforms, and I actually our episode touched on this a little bit yesterday, but 3 platforms. One, are you going to be a local service provider? To me, that's the easiest, right?
Yeah.
On the local standpoint, so many people aren't taking advantage of local SEO, Google Maps, Google reviews. I really think in a small town, even a medium-sized town, you could go in an industry in 6 to 12 months, rack up enough reviews and referrals to really make a dent. No matter if you're a power washer, an auto detailer, a photographer, whatever the case may be, real estate agent, just because, to be honest, the competition's not as steep. Now, different if you're in Chicago, LA, right? Dallas, competition is a little bit different, but still. And then secondly, are you going to be like a freelancer? Like, are you going to sell on Etsy or Fiverr, things like that? If you were going to do that, I'd focus really on understanding the platform you're selling on. And then lastly,
it's very huge.
Yeah. And then lastly, the big behemoth, obviously, is just selling strictly online. Obviously the biggest reward, but huge competition. I mean, you're competing with the big dogs. Google doesn't care how hard you work. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's certain things that they look for. And if you're not meeting them, you're not going to rank up there with whatever product category. If you're trying to beat out Nike or apparel or whatever the case may be, Google is going to favor how it plays ball. So, specific examples, I would figure out what platform you're going to sell, local, freelance, or online, and then really understand your market and make sure that you're passionate about your hobby. Otherwise, you're going to burn out.
Yeah, I love that you just said that because I was actually going to ask you, have you ever felt burnout? Because like so before this, I was a personal trainer. I was local. I was actually in a very highly, I was in Orange County, California, very dense market for personal trainers, obviously near San Diego, near the beach. So obviously everyone cares about fitness. So luckily I did really well just because I niched my industry down and I had a particular group of people that I worked with. And by the end, I was working kind of like your schedule. I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would train typically if I had a 4:30 or 5 client, rush over to the gym, go get there around 12 or finish around noon, have my lunch, work out, and then go back at 2 or 2 or 3 because I had a teacher who I trained, and then go till 8. And that was just draining on myself. So I think it's super important to be passionate about what you do. By the end of it, I was not passionate about it. I made a lot of money. I invested in real estate, and I was tired of exchanging time for money. And I think that's where a lot of us are trying to now escape from, or a lot of our listeners actually trying to escape from the rat race or the digital rat race. And I think that's, someone like you who can show people that, a 9-to-5 isn't the worst thing, and you can actually use it to your advantage by leveraging employee contributions, all the benefits, and that's stuff that is stuff that doesn't come out of your pocket, and you're able to now use your budgeting tactics to reinvest into income producing assets or other businesses or whatever that is to be able to retire early. Is that kind of the gambit?
Yeah, I would say 100%. My wife and I use our base salaries to live off of, and then we're blessed enough to both receive, good sized commissions every once in a while. So her being in real estate and me in sales. So that's essentially our play money of do we want to invest it? Do we want to invest in our side hustles? But we had a lot of hard work on the front end of making sure that budget is correct. And then making a budget's easy. It's sticking to it is hard. So we have a lot of tools and tricks. I wouldn't say tricks. They're more of just like almost like psychological, just like parameters that we put in. Like for instance, give you an example of what I'm talking about. So for instance, like a lot of people think of budget as very constricting. So one of the ways that we do to lift that is we both have a prepaid spending card that she gets X amount of dollars a month to spend, and I get X amount of dollars to spend. It started out at $25 a month, and now it's quite a bit higher, but she can go spend that on whatever she wants. And I don't know about it. I can't say she can't, and same way here. So, and we've put that into the budget. So, it's just ingrained in. So it's not like, hey, live this, water and rice ramen noodle kind of life. It's just make sure you're accounting for it, and then put the parameters in place that if I try and swipe my card when my $200 a month is gone, it's going to get declined. And if I swipe the other card, my wife is going to get a notification.
Right.
So little things like that of, just trying to be smart and disciplined and go that route.
I love that you have the prepaid card. I think that's a really cool concept because one, if it does decline, you're kind of embarrassed. So it kind of is a psychological play of like kind of reward versus consequences. Because how embarrassing is it to go? So I don't think I've ever had this happen, but to go, so I can only imagine swiping a card and it declining, and you'd be like, well,
oh yeah, it's happened. Yeah, it's happened multiple times. And the thing is, we have an app that I could look, but
right.
you get close, and you're like, I think I have a couple bucks left, so I'm gonna go grab a coffee or whatever. And then you swipe, and it's like, oh, it didn't go through. You're like, oh, really? Well, let me just try a different card. Every month for me, I do it all the time because I'm too lazy to check the app because we're human, right? And if that was my credit card, guess what? I just would swipe it,
Right.
And so you would never, and that's how we end up. I always make people, the very first thing we do when we sit down and make a budget is make a budget. And then after that, I have them go pull the expenses from last month, their credit card and bank statements, and they're never even close. On budget, paper, their budget looks great. Their expenses are like 30%, 40% over. And they're like, oh yeah, I did buy that. Oh yeah, I did get that. Right.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's funny because you don't really think about it. Like it's just kind of automatic that you don't realize how much you are actually spending until you write a budget. I mean, I look at things, and a lot of people forget that they have like subscriptions or whatever else attached to their account, and it just comes out and have no idea that it's coming out every month. I mean, there's millions of things that I'm sure I'm subscribed to, and I just have not uh, removed them. And I know there's and I'll link it in the show notes, but a app called Truebill, which removes a lot of subscriptions, stuff that is kind of an app that's kind of useful for budgeting in a sense. They're not really budgeting, but more canceling all the things that you really don't need or asking to have them lower like your phone bill, insurance, that sort of thing. So it's a pretty cool app, I think. I was going to ask you, so do you, and I saw this on your podcast, but do you guys share your guys' expenses as a married couple?
we do. We do. And it's so weird to us because we've just always operated that way. That's the way her parents did and my parents did. So when we found out people didn't that were married, we were like, our minds were blown. And the people that didn't share finances that found out we did, they were like, wait, you do that? Like it's so opposite because
Right,
you never talk about it. You just do what your parents did, most likely,
right,
or whatever you were, ingrained in that nature that you were taught, and that's just normal. And I've seen both of them work. I obviously am a proponent of us being on the same goal. Now I'm way more of a nerd, and like I'm the one that actually invests the money and sets it all up and makes the budget, where
right.
she's 100% involved in how much we spend in each category and things like that. For us, that works. I know for some people it doesn't. If you ask my opinion, from what I've seen, the percentage of people that are able to be wealthier for us, it accelerates in my experience, percentage wise. Let's go just by straight percentage wise. The people that share money are able to accelerate their wealth faster, if that makes sense.
No,
Not
no,
saying it, yeah. So I've seen people that don't share finances that just crush it, right? They do great. They each have their own mission. They're very, you know, A type people, and they're crushing it. But more times than not, statistics would say you can grow faster if you share, if you combine them.
yeah, I think but it depends on, I think, like you said, you guys both share the same goals, right? So like
Right.
if one was not as frugal as you, say your wife was not the frugal one, and you were, and she spent all the money and you saved it all, it'd be kind of working against each other.
Right.
So, and I was just listening to Millionaire Next Door, and they talked about, how that relationship works with one person being frugal and the other person not, versus two people that share the kind of the same goal, like you were saying, and how they are able to accelerate their wealth so quickly because they do share expenses and they do have the same alignment on where they want to take their lives. So I think that's really cool. Me and my wife actually don't share expenses.
Yeah.
We have separate accounts. So totally different things. But we're getting to the point where I think we are sharing our expenses. We just refinanced all of our properties, or just refinanced the first one to leverage the other three, and has her name on every single property. So, or will have her name on every single property. So it is super important to have that kind of shared mindset of where you guys want to go and where you want to be in the future. I know for me, I do not want to work past like 40, 45. And my goal is to make enough income through real estate investing or software development to make sure she doesn't have to work. So that's kind of our alignment. And I know we were just talking about this earlier about how you guys could stop working, or you could stop working because you have your side hustle. And you're able to grow it to a point where at some point you won't have to, quote unquote, work a 9 to 5. You'll be able to free up your time and no longer exchange time for money because you have your investments, you have your podcast, and you have all these other streams of income that help you produce more income. What is kind of your, I guess, number that you guys focus on retirement? Like, what is that perfect number, I guess?
Yeah. So I'll kind of back up just a tad. So essentially, if And this, like I said, it makes sense for some people and it doesn't for others. But for instance, had we not shared finances, my wife would, like we talked about before the call, my wife never would have been in real estate because,
Right.
she was 23 years old. And the only way that she could have chased that dream is if I, took care of all the expenses for until she started making money, which I
Right.
kind of joked she made negative $5,000 that first year, which is no joke. Literally did not make a sale and had office fees when we were in Hawaii, which are not cheap.
No, because
So
you have
that,
holding costs, you have marketing, you have
yeah,
just continued education. There's so much that goes into real estate, being a realtor. So sorry for interrupting you. So, but yeah, that's why that negative income happened is
yeah.
because
So, yeah. So just had we not had that framework, she'd probably be working a 9 to 5 somewhere and probably miserable. Who knows? I don't know. Just with her personality, I know for some people it's great. But I'm a 9 to 5. I love my job. I also love my side hustle. But going to your point of what is that number? What does that look like? If you look at like Simple Path to Wealth, or a lot of the fire guys, the
right,
financial independent, retire early,
right,
they would say a good rule of thumb is 25 times what you're spending now and investing in that, and 75 to 80% stocks, 25% bonds. I'm more like you, like real estate. We have we're involved in a couple multifamily properties. That's kind of, I think, just as safe as bonds, if not, and with a higher return, in my
right. No,
opinion.
way better.
Yeah. So for us, I'd like a couple million. I'm 30, my wife is 28. If we could be retired by the time the kids are on to college, which would put us at 48 and 46, um, I would be extremely happy. I think we're on pace to do it faster than that.
That's great.
But for us, it's just each month it takes time. You can set up automatic payments, but for us, we get commission. Same with you. Your returns on your investment are not the same every month.
No,
So you're going to have to go in there, and every month you're going to have to take the time to say, okay, I made XYZ. I made an extra grand or two this month. Where am I going to put it? Am I going to spend it, or do I want to retire a little earlier? And you got to make that conscious decision every single month and every week, every time you do that. And, um, that's what I'm just trying to teach people. If you can get in a habit of doing that and paying yourself first, you can still live a great life with a lot of nice things and retire early. It doesn't have to be this or that. It can be both in moderation.
yeah, definitely. I totally agree, and I think that one of the things that I find that you talk a lot on is being, or you say budgeting or being frugal, and I think a lot of people don't do that, and especially online, I've noticed that a lot. Is they'll make some sort. I think any middle class American or anybody in general typically does this. The more money they make, the more they tend to spend, and they constantly are in this rat race because the more money they make, the more expenses they have, and they keep living paycheck to paycheck. And I think that the number one takeaway that a lot of people should take from this podcast is try and be more frugal, try and create the gap between what your expenses are and what your income is, and using all that cash flow to reinvest into income producing assets. I mean, you guys have real estate, we have real estate. We're always focused on reinvesting our money and paying ourselves first. For me, I don't focus on like a grand number, like a couple million. I'm more focused on how many rental properties I can get, because at some point, I could sell them. I mean, there's so many different ways I could do it, right? Like I could sell those off and just have the couple million, and then have recurring income too, so that I can continuously have my living expenses paid for through recurring income. And that's all I focus on, is how much recurring income I have for this month and has it grown. Because if I can continuously grow my recurring income, then I have a safety net in a sense, because I know each month that safety net is going to pay for all my expenses. It's going to allow me to reinvest my income into income producing assets. And I'm not like at a zero sum where once that couple million's gone, I'm shit out of luck because I have no more money coming in. So that's why I heavily focus on recurring income. But more importantly, why I invest in real estate is because, like you said, with bonds, there's only really just a appreciation that you get from that. versus real estate. Obviously, you know this, but and for those who don't, I mean, there's so many ways that you do get income from real estate. I mean, I get it through appreciation, I get it through depreciation, I get it through tax benefits, I get cash flow, I get debt pay down, I get creative financing. We were able to buy our dream house because I'm able to leverage the equity in our real estate properties and do an equity transfer or just a cash out refi and buy our dream home for 20% down without spending any money out of our pockets. So it just allows for so much wealth generation, I guess. And I think that's so great that you guys are investing in real estate already. And I think that, and I know you guys have your budgeting spreadsheet. What was it? It was on your website. I just talked about it to you about it ago. But tell us a little bit more about what that is on your website that people can actually get to start budgeting and start setting budgets to help their middle class lifestyle.
Yeah. So, I mean, the easiest thing for someone getting started, I would say, is just go to our website. You pop in your email. It's free. You'll get kicked back a kind of financial checklist. And then you'll get a spreadsheet. Hopefully the spreadsheet in and of itself will get you started. We have a full in-depth course that they can get, and really walks them through like the whole 9 yards of
perfect, yeah.
budgeting all the way to the end of investing. But really, I would just say more important than the course is just get the budget and make one and start there and actually track your expenses. That's more important, I think, than anything. If you can start there, the biggest thing that I see with people is they get overwhelmed with investing in real estate and trying to learn all of it, and they never take the first step. So I tell people, like, hey, don't even look at anything. Don't even buy the course. I mean, I don't care about any of that. Just take the spreadsheet, make a budget, and then track your expenses. And then step after that is, like you kind of talked about, I call it ground zero, where you cancel all your subscriptions for 1 month. And you see after that 1 month what you want to add back in, because I guarantee you won't add it all back in.
Yeah,
you're going to add some things back in. But yeah, cancel everything. Cancel Netflix, cancel Amazon Prime. I mean, just do it. They'll take your money when you're ready to sign back up. Trust me.
Right.
No,
it's true. And not only that, but it's things that are not, most time, a lot of the recurring or subscription models are just distractions. Yeah. Like you said, Netflix, Amazon, streaming, anything streaming is just a distraction to take you away from what you should be doing, which is investing your time now into your side hustle, like you're doing, starting a podcast. Actually, I want to go back real quick about, I kind of answered my question when I asked you, but have you ever been burnt out on, doing what you're doing? I mean, I think that's kind of a thing that happens to a lot of online people, especially people that are doing like organic or affiliate marketing or anything like that. Do you ever feel burnt out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I kind of dodged that question earlier, didn't I?
I think I just talked too much.
So yes, that's the reason why I sold my car detailing business. It was a lot of hard work. Went from 0 to 4 employees in a matter of a couple months, and had a shop, and revenue was good, especially for being early 20s. But I'll just be honest, I don't love cleaning cars. Back to your side hustle thing of ideas. Anyone can learn how to detail a car. I mean, I'm in the process of writing kind of an in-depth thing, because people ask about that all the time, and that's one thing I know very well. And it doesn't take a whole lot of money to be able to, like, startup money, a couple $100, and you can have all the stuff you need to start cleaning people's cars. But yeah, that was one of the instances where I was done. I was exhausted. I had a newborn. I felt like I was babysitting my employees as well as trying to detail, 20 some cars a week. And I just walked away one week. And had I not, and this is coming from someone whose net worth was like 30 grand, right? I didn't have a whole lot of money, but I also didn't have any debt, and we were able to live off my wife's money. So even just having that 30 grand in the bank and being debt free, that allowed me to say, I'm done. And I literally, I went and found someone. I found another detail shop. I sold off the business and all the accounts, the website, everything. Just gave him a nice little pretty package that I know he's still benefiting from today. and I went and played golf for a month. And I couldn't afford to do that for very long,
Right.
right? I wanted to start something new and that's when I started essentially my business to business sales career, and I've been in it ever since. But yeah, I was so burnt out, and I think it's because I wasn't passionate about detailing cars. I needed money, and I was a hustler, but I didn't care how clean your car was. I just needed a way to make money, and so I did
Right.
it.
No, it sounds like a similar story to me. Like I was training for 10 years. I was very passionate in the very beginning. I was making lots of money. And by the end of it, uh, and I think that kind of is important uh, little piece of nugget that you were talking about is you had that 30,000, which was like that nest egg to kind of support you and you didn't have any debt. So when I was finishing personal training and I was not in love with it anymore, my clients could tell because I just wasn't in it as much as I wanted to be. I just wasn't showing my passion anymore. But I didn't have any debt at that point. We just refinanced the property. We pulled out $100,000. I paid off all my debts, and then I used that money to buy another real estate investment. And then I gave my six-figure business to another personal trainer. I think he recently actually just proposed to his girlfriend. So now he has a wife or fiance, which is really exciting. And I went to Burning Man for a week. And then from there, I moved to Texas. And that's where we live now, and started all over doing the whole online thing. And it's been great. So that kind of those real estate investments has allowed me to kind of live without debt or pay for all my expenses while I built another business. And that's kind of what you didn't build another business. Well, you do with your middle class money, but you started another business that you're kind of excited about, not start, but that you're involved with the 9 to 5 now. So I think that's different kind of trajectory, but kind of same kind of mindset. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I want to point out too, because a lot of people, like my brother has said this, so I can say this. He's like, oh well, you can do that because you make more money, right? Or you had 30,000, but people don't realize is that combined for a couple years, we didn't make over 100 grand together, but because we spent so little, and we were, most people, instead of having 30 grand in the bank, they had just a new car or a bigger house. I mean,
Right.
And so it's easy now to say, oh, well, yeah, because you have more money or you make more money, but they don't realize there was 5 to 7 years where all our friends had the nicer things. They
Right.
still have nicer cars. I drive a 12-year-old car, right? And probably have a net worth bigger than most people my age. And yet I have a $9,000 car that has 190,000 miles on it. Could I go afford a new one? Yes, but those aren't my priorities,
Right.
right? It has to do with someday will I hopefully buy a really nice car? Yes. It's just right now it doesn't align with my goals. And I think
Right.
you got to take time to write them down, and do that, because you have so many people out there who live in 80 to 90% of their income is spent every month. And right now you're seeing, unfortunately, it's sad that a lot of people are hurting from it because they're losing their job and getting furloughed. My wife was furloughed, actually.
Oh,
Long story, but somehow she was in the corporate world for like 6 months, and got furloughed and went back to real estate. But luckily, we were okay for a little while because of that. It gives you, I always say, it just gives you power. It gives you options,
yeah. I work from home, so I never drive. I actually have a Prius that's completely paid off. I actually rent it out on Toro, and it gets like $500 extra a month. Added with our real estate, there's another $8 grand, or $9 grand, and then obviously software is another couple grand. So it all adds up. And like you said, my priority isn't to impress other people with materialistic things. Like I don't care. I wear the same exact stuff pretty much all the time, and I have the same car. We have a super discount on rent because my wife is a property manager, and so all these things allow me to reinvest my money. And I don't like my wife actually has to go out and buy me stuff because she's like, you need new stuff. Like,
Right.
and it's just, for me, it's not a necessity. I'd rather have multi-generational wealth, and I'd rather have, like, when we have kids, to have them set up so that they don't have to worry about, if they're going to college or not. My goal is to kind of what Brandon Turner did was buy his son or daughter a fourplex when they're born, and then when they turn 18, obviously put like on 15-year mortgage. When they're ready to go to college, they can decide to either rent it out and collect the income from it, or sell it and go to college. And that's kind of what my goal is for our real estate investment. But I want to buy 100 properties, like I said, so 4 out of the 100 is not going to hurt me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's, to me, that's way more valuable than a 529, right? You get a little tax break on the 529, but unfortunately, so many kids get handed their 529, which are great things that their parents set up for them, but they're never taught how to manage money. Same thing with me. My parents are great. I love my parents, super close with them, but no one taught them. And so in return, they didn't teach me, that they didn't know. It wasn't, and we just don't talk about early money in our family homes. It's just, it's interesting to me. It blows my mind that it's not more of a staple, So
Yeah, I think I see that online all the time, actually, and I see that in just general. I think I asked someone the other day about how much commissions do they make for an affiliate sale, because I was interested in the program, and he's like, "Are we talking about money in that?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, like, do is that like a foreign subject or something?" Like, I would be proud of my accomplishments. That's just me, but obviously not everyone's the same. I actually did not learn money from my parents at all, kind of like you. But my mom started investing. I think I don't know who got their property first, but I ended up surpassing my mom, and now she comes to me and talks to me about investing, and now she wants to invest money with me to buy more real estate. So I think it's really cool when you can talk to your family about money and your friends, and about how money works and what money does, and it's not. I think it's so a taboo subject, because people think of it as currency or a way to spend money versus a tool that allows us to do things faster.
Here's what I always tell people. It's funny because you're right. People don't like to say how much they make. People are very uncomfortable telling you how much they get paid, but guess what? They're not uncomfortable pulling up in the brand new Range Rover. They want to show that. They want to show that off, right?
Right.
They'll tell you how much you paid for it. Oh yeah, I just got this, and it was, I mean, this is the top of the line. This was 80 grand, but yeah, they're really uncomfortable telling you how much they get paid. And so it's like, it just kind of, when you think of it that way, it just brings to light as like money is just a vehicle to, it's nothing else. It's just a way to acquire things and a way to build wealth. It's just something we trade.
It's a promissory note, is what it is. It's I promise that this item is valued at this much, and I'm going to give you this currency or this promissory note of this wealth, and it's a tool, is what it is, and or a vehicle, like you said. And I think that's a great example of, and I love that analogy of, like you just said, of people will drive up with a Range Rover, go on these extravagant, these great vacations, and show pictures about it, but won't talk about money. So it's a very interesting taboo subject. But so I know we talked a little bit about your website, your podcast, where people can find out middleclassmoney.com to sign up for that spreadsheet. I know you have a course that teaches people how to budget and save and take control of their money. Where can people find out more about Taylor, though?
So probably about me. So you'll have to apologize if anyone goes today, where I told you I literally revamped the website today, because essentially we started as just a podcast, right?
Right.
So full transparency, it was just a podcast, and like you and I kind of talked about, we've had some pretty decent traction, and a lot of people reach out, and so now I'm in the process of structuring it where I'm, I got the course done. That was my first thing, because I was like, okay, I don't have time to tell everybody step by step. So let me get a framework that people can go through that we've been using for the past, 7 years. And so that's done. That's on there. And then I'm essentially kind of like what you talked about, like the how-tos of the things, like where should I put my money? I'm essentially right now going through and writing a kind of it will all be free, right? It'll all be free of like how to of, hey, here's where you should think of putting your emergency fund money. These are the highest bank accounts, the best payments. Here's the best prepaid debit card. Here's the one we use. So I'm in the process of building all those resources. That will be, 100% free. And then if they want to act on it, they can obviously get the course. So just the middleclassmoney.com, just be patient with me as I have a lot of content to write, trying to take everything over the past 7 years, business success and failures, and put it on there, give you the best tools that I've used, and the ones that didn't work, the ones that did. But I'm working on that every morning at 4:30. So I'm trying to get after it.
No, I think that's great. I mean, I think a lot of people aren't willing to. I see this a lot actually with people that have 9 to 5s. They're just not willing to wake up that early and get stuff done. And they always say they don't have time or whatever. They just don't prioritize their time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. Some of us just prioritize our time a little bit differently. And obviously, you're willing to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to put content out there for your viewers, your audience, and you're willing to force the effort to actually do that for them. And I think that's really cool. And I think more people need to do that. And you get so much more done. I mean, no one's awake at that time. There's no distractions. I get up at the same time. So I'm never having my phone go off. I'm never having pings in my messenger. I get like 100 messages a day. So if I can get, wake up at 4 and get stuff done before I get all those messages, then it's super, super time saving for me.
Yeah. And I'll say this to anyone that listens to this is to really take a chance, because I'm not a writer. And to be honest, I'm not a finance guy. I got a D in college finance.
I think about it the same.
Yeah. And I misspell things all the time. I don't know where commas goes. I don't know where semicolons go. And yet I've wrote a 30-page ebook with a step-by-step, course. Like, did it take me longer than most people that can write? Yes. But, don't be scared to start. And I read a quote the other day. Is like, if you're not embarrassed of your first product or first try, let's say you're not selling something, your first try, then you started too late. And I look back at the first rendition of my course, it was atrocious. And I'm sure in 2-3 years, I'm going to look back at this rendition and be like, oh, wow. Like, I can't believe, it should be so much better, right? I can't believe I didn't have this piece of content in there.
Right.
And you're going to say that about your investment accounts. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I put it in that account. I can't believe I bought that flip. I can't believe I partnered with, that Joe guy and went in and did that deal. But I promise you, a step forward in the right direction, even no matter how far you stumble, is going to be way, more promising and successful than just sitting on the sidelines.
No, that's huge. I would say that's probably the biggest takeaway that you could have in this whole podcast is not only just budgeting, but taking the first step and taking the next step, and then taking the next step, and being okay with failing. And then ultimately you'll get better, and your second time is going to be better than the first time, and the 5th time is going to be better than the second time, and the 100th time is going to be better than the second time. So as we master our craft and are able to make changes and updates and better ourselves, I mean, that's how we learn and how we grow as humans and as individuals. So, Tyler, thank you so much for everything. You are amazing. If you guys have not checked out Middle Class Money, they have a huge, huge following. Go ahead and subscribe right now. Go like their page. Give them a 5-star review. I think they're up to like 245 or so, which is amazing. So they're an awesome podcast. Go check them out. And Tyler, thanks so much again. And it's been a great time talking to you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.